in that two-story portion of the building, the jail or the sheriff's office in the tower, and the jail off to the right-hand side of the photograph. So that's what seemed to make the most sense. And then there's a lot of space available in the basement that could be used for storage and other program spaces if we do additional programming and alternative programs at the jail. So it made a lot of sense. And that way also we have basically the front of the jail faces one street, the juvenile transition center faces another street. So again, we'd have the opportunity for two separate addresses, two separate identities, although they're housed in the same building. And basically their backs would face each other. The common space would be the kitchen, but the space that divides from a physical standpoint, you have this tower, which would be the sheriff's office, separating the juvenile from the jail side. And the flexibility, the thing about the hospital that provides a lot of advantages to the county is there's probably, the hospital's in decent shape, generally speaking. There's some spaces there that you probably just, rip out the carpeting and refinish the walls, and there may be things you just might be able to redecorate and move into. The mechanical, electrical systems would take quite a bit of work, and we'll be developing the scope of work as we develop construction estimates and so forth. But there's a lot of flexibility in this facility. One example, let's say you don't move the juvenile transition center in there immediately. Maybe that's a year or two down the road. That space is still there that you can move them in any time. And it gives you flexibility on phasing the construction, phasing the cost, and the building is generally in good shape. So generally speaking, in order of magnitude, we think that the renovation of the hospital would probably be toward the lower end of the construction cost. Around East Building, a little bit above that, and the new construction at 414 West Broadway would probably be in the higher side. Now, we don't have any construction costs yet, but just as an order of magnitude and general feel from where we think we're at, that's how it lays out. The last building we looked at was the McLaughlin School over on Catherine Street, and we looked at it only as a juvenile transition center. It's only about 2.5 or 3 acres. It's not big enough for a jail, not an appropriate site for a jail. But because of the programming that you do in a juvenile transition center, a school makes sense because there's a lot of classrooms. We have several classrooms. Things like visitation can happen in a classroom space. Things like the hearing room can be held in classroom space. So it made sense to, and if you remember, we had looked at, we'd asked for information on 11 different schools, and they only ended up with one that physically would work. Although I will say, through the process of reviewing all of these buildings, I have to say that the McLaughlin School seemed to be the most popular topic of discussion because there was the most opposition to that site. The neighborhood came out in force to basically say that this is not the kind of facility we want in our neighborhood, and you can argue that probably either way. But it was very clear that there was a very local opposition to that site. So for that reason, we haven't given the McLaughlin School any further consideration for the juvenile facility. So on Friday, we basically recapped the options. And essentially, there's 3 sites that we recommend moving forward with further investigation. Because as I said, we have not completed any construction cost estimates or staffing or operating budgets yet. The way we'd like to, like I said, the charette's done, but the study's not. I would like to work with staff and work with administration on developing those over the next month or two, because there's still data to collect and so forth. But the 3 sites we like are the 414 West Broadway for a co-located facility, jail and juvenile transition center, the Roundy's site on Laketon for co-located facilities, and the hospital for actually combining both facilities into under one roof. And so we're going to move forward with construction project costs, staffing, and operating budgets. Then there's certain data that we need to validate. The public raised a lot of questions about arrest rates and how certain processes are done in the judicial system in the county and all that we didn't have answers for. So there's going to be some additional information we're going to have to collect and analyze. One of the things that the county that we should consider is, review law enforcement and judiciary practices, or anything else we can do as far as alternatives to incarceration to reduce the jail population, look at these further diversion program opportunities, and assess what is the impact of some of these things that we're doing. Again, from the statistics we collected, we can tell how the jail population has been managed. What we don't really know is how many people is that, and if there are other opportunities, what impacts might that have? And we need more time to study that. The other thing we need to study is the potential impact going the other way on the jail. I mean, all these alternatives to incarceration are great. We need to assess what other ones could they be, and will they have an impact? Then on the other side is, what might the state do to us? I mean, you can look at other states around us that have already, where the Department of Corrections has already backed people up in the county jails, and you can see what impact that has had for states that have already done that. And we need to consider what that impact might be. So, that's kind of a snapshot of where we're at right now. As I mentioned, we have a little more work to do. We were hoping initially to get farther along with the construction and the staffing costs, but the fact was we investigated 20 different design options, and that kind of took a lot of time, so we didn't get to the cost.